good evening, and welcome to the first Gooner Ramble of the 2015-16 season. It's been a pretty short summer, it feels like, but it is nice to have Arsenal back in our lives, and perhaps transfer speculation could begin to take a bit of a backseat to actual football. I'm Callum, I'm your host today, and I'm joined today by James. How you doing, mate?
I'm all good, thank you.
Great, and from across the pond we've got Rick joining us as well. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing well. How are you all doing?
I think we're all very good. So today, Curtain Raiser, Community Shield. We finally got one over on Mourinho. Finally beat Chelsea after a long time. A 1-0 victory, and I think it's safe to say that we all very much enjoyed that today. It really does kind of cap off a great pre-season. That's 3 trophies. The treble is wrapped up, and this Arsenal side of 2015 will go down in history alongside the likes of Man United in 1999 and Barcelona in 2009, so we can all be very happy with that. So, and on a serious note, I think, the only place to start really would be the match today. 1-0. It was a friendly game, some people like to call it, but it wasn't played like a friendly at all. You know, you could tell there's a lot of bad blood between the two teams, between the managers, and it very much felt like a real cup final or a genuine Premier League game. Rick, we'll start with you, mate. What were your expectations going into the game? Did you feel confident? How did you think the game played out as a whole?
Going into the game, I wasn't terribly confident, knowing that Mourinho always seems to out-tactic Wenger in these matches. So, obviously confident, but not terribly confident, because we've improved a great deal. And while they still have a great team, they have not really gotten better. So I was hoping it would be actually a more entertaining match. I mean, it was a little gritty, some bad possession by both teams, really, some missed opportunities by both teams. So from an actual match perspective, it wasn't tremendously exciting, I guess. I mean, it was fun because we were up for most of the match, and that's always great, especially when I was sitting next to one of the few Chelsea supporters that showed up in our bar, and I got to harass him. So
it's a rare occasion that happens, so it is. Make sure you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did. He was good-natured about it. It was all fun because, as he consistently reminded me, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the classic thing, isn't it, with the Community Shield? If you win it, it's fantastic. It's another trophy to the collection, and if you lose it, it's just another friendly, isn't it? But I think from judging the reaction, I think in the media and social media, I think there is a recognition that this was more than just a friendly because of the bad blood between the managers in particular, and of course the fact that this is the Premier League champions against a team that really wants to be the champions next year. And I think going into the season, we're looking pretty good, and we've got a great pre-season behind us. And the game today, it certainly wasn't one for the purists, but in a way, I almost kind of like that. I think we've had enough games in the past where we've come out and played really nice attacking football, only to get done by, a dodgy penalty or a sloppy goal from a set piece. So in a way, I kind of like the fact that we took the lead and kind of just got down. We just did what Chelsea do to so many teams, which is just keep it tight at the back and grind.
It almost seemed like we out Mourinho.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think obviously, I think it was a pretty close game. I don't think you can really say that we blew them away. And whilst I think most Chelsea fans will probably admit that they were nowhere near their best today, it was still both two strong teams. I think probably the strongest teams either side could have fielded. I mean, we didn't have Alexis, they didn't have Costa for injury reasons, or with Alexis we were just giving him a longer rest. But it was a real scrappy affair, one that you'd expect to see in the Premier League. And James, what did you make of it? Were you surprised to see it kind of go down to go down to that sort of style, kind of scrappy?
Yeah. I mean, we did our last pod. We did the predicted lineup, and I thought Debuchy for sure would have started over Bellerin. I thought maybe we'll keep it quite tight defensively, but not as tight as we did. And fair play to Bellerin. I thought he was amazing today. I didn't really have much to moan about any player apart from, and I'm a big Monreal fan, as I've expressed, but today he did look a bit shaky at times. He made a rash clearance second half, and it was a bit like, what the hell?
It's interesting you say that, because I personally would have said that Bellerin actually looked a bit more shaky, just because I thought he got caught out of position, on a couple of times where Willian and Remy got behind him.
Well,
I
that was
think,
the thing with Remy. I thought he had an absolutely awful game, and
he was just offside every time he got the ball.
he's a guy that normally he's quite impressive to me. But I really wasn't impressed with him today at all. And Falcao comes on, and I don't know if it's because he's cut his hair or he's at Chelsea or whatever. But he looks 10 years younger. He looks 40 instead of 50 now, which is quite impressive. They've took 10 years of him. But no, I was really quite impressed with that. A lot of people criticise Arsenal for, their determination and wanting to win, and they say that they don't fight enough and they don't grind. But I think we really ground that out quite well today. And I don't mind if towards the end of a game, if we're bringing on, I don't know, 5 or 6 people to get it tight at the back. Gibbs and Arteta are all right. He's not the best anymore, but he come on, he did all right. Didn't really do too much to really moan about. But no, I was very impressed. And Oxlade-Chamberlain getting the man of the match today, that was an absolute fantastic goal. And
Do you think it's the new haircut?
I don't know what it is. I want him, to have a fully fit season, because I really do believe, not just for us but for England and for other. I think he's such an important player, and Ramsey was sort of on the wing today as well, and we can't keep going through like that for the whole season. We need natural wingers, and Chamberlain's that in every sense of the word. And with every right back that he seems to play with, he always has a good partnership. Like him and Chambers, you think, oh, they're really good together, or him and Jenkinson, they're really good. And then Debuchy during the Emirates Cup the other week, they were superb. But again, him and Bellerin today were absolutely great. And it's the way that today, which I was impressed with, was it's every first, second, third ball. Like we're trying to win it back, and we didn't really go full out attack on Chelsea, which is good, because there's been times where we've run in there like a young kid on his birthday, at the toy store, and I want this, I want that, I want that.
We seem to have finally learned our lesson, haven't we?
Yeah, it was a lot calmer today, and
if you ignore Monaco last season, I guess, but.
Well, onwards and upwards, I hope, but I'm not going to get carried away. But to say it's a nothing game, they would have been fucking loving it if they beat us. They would have been.
Well, Mourinho wasn't happy. I think that's what to say. He was seems quite agitated on the touchline, and I can guarantee you that those last 5 minutes, Wenger would have been, he would have really hoped that we held on, because whilst. If we had thrown it away, if they'd gone level and we'd gone to penalties and lost or whatever, and Wenger would have come out and I'm sure would have said it's just a pre-season match, doesn't affect our preparations. I think deep inside he would be royally pissed off that he'd lost out again to Wenger. So yeah, I think it's what you've said about the game as a whole is correct. And the way the general style of the game was pretty messy. But I have to say I didn't really ever feel too troubled by Chelsea, and I think that's probably. You could put it down to Chelsea being perhaps a little bit off the pace because it is still early doors. But, in previous years, it's always felt that once we take a lead against a big side, you just think it's not going to last very long.
There was several nervous factors from moments for me. I mean, thank God.
It's always going to be.
Thank God Remy had a bad game, because he got in behind Bellerin a couple times, acres of space, and I thought, oh fuck, they're going to do us. And
what I'm talking about is there was never a period where you felt we're really under the cosh here. I mean, you think about what Cech had to do today. He made a couple of decent saves, the one from the Oscar free kick, and he came out and claimed the ball quite well a couple of times, but he was never really tested. And I know you could say we didn't really test Courtois either, but once we had that goal, we went 1-0 up. I mean, I was nervous because it was Chelsea and we've not beaten them for a long time, but when you look at the game objectively, I think you would look at it and say, actually, Chelsea didn't really push anywhere near as hard as they should have done, and they didn't create an awful lot. I know Hazard booted his chance over the bar, but
he did.
In the grand scheme of things, I think actually we did a very good job of neutralising their attack.
And we, Cazorla left one out there as well. I think Gibbs had a good opportunity towards the end of the game too. Proved he's a defender.
Well, he should have scored that. I mean.
So
can't really blame him because he was a left back being played through on the right side of attack, and thankfully it didn't cost us. But yeah, I think both sides would have had one or two clear cut chances.
Yeah, my Chelsea neighbor there that was sitting next to me thought the game was over. Then when that ball went out to Cazorla, he just screamed, "Oh, fucking game's over!"
I wasn't really sure what Cazorla was trying to do with that. I mean, he kind of went for a half chip, but even if he got over Courtois, I don't think it would have even dribbled over the line, But no, I think over the course, I think it was what it was really was a scrappy game between two teams that weren't really anywhere near their best. But I think once we had that goal, we showed the confidence and, in our own ability to hold the lead, which I think is hugely promising. We've spoken briefly about Oxlade-Chamberlain, but James, that goal, I mean, when you cut in on his left foot, did you really expect him to do that?
To be honest, he's one of the only ones that's got like a wonder goal in him, or he likes to take the shots on. He's confident enough to have the shot, and to upper Benjamin's as well, absolute class goal. And Theo Walcott getting the assist. A lot of people, especially on my timeline and stuff on Twitter, they're a bit apprehensive. They're a bit like I think against Terry and Cahill and Matic and everyone like that, you need the presence of Giroud, which, to be fair, looking at it in the second half, I thought we sort of looked a bit better when Giroud did come on. But I was happy for Walcott to start. I think that this, like we said about Chamberlain, it's a big season for him. I think it's also a very big season for Theo Walcott, and I thought he played very well in that first half and a bit extra that he played in. He didn't really have many chances, but the ball he played to Chamberlain was fantastic, and then for him to take that on and to smash it in, it was a brilliant goal. And just when he was celebrating, just Coquelin behind him as well, just like waving his arms.
That was great to see, wasn't it?
He epitomises passion, Coquelin. I love him to bits. But no, it was an absolute beautiful goal. Beautiful goal.
I think now we might
set up by Ozil as well. I mean, I think his pass to Theo bypassed 5 defenders in just one ball.
Yeah, I mean, Ozil was quietly efficient today. I don't think he really tore up any trees, but he was involved in the goal and played his part. Now, I think now we have our good friend Akhil here. Are you here, mate?
I am indeed, yeah. I'm here.
Yeah. How is married life going for you?
Yeah, it's good. I've still got to go to Wembley today, so can't be bad.
Fantastic. So you were at the game today. First of all, where were you sitting, and what was your angle of the goal?
I was the same place as I was for the cup final. So that was I was same end. It was block 113, I think it was. So it was a decent angle for the goal. It was a better angle last year for Sanchez's goal, so I was right behind it. But you know what? Any goal against Mourinho's Chelsea, I'll take. So it was a good angle.
So what was the atmosphere like today? I mean, I think it's safe to say that this wasn't just a friendly atmosphere. It was very much. It felt like something was on the line here. Was that the feeling in the stadium? Did you get?
It was, yeah, it was. I think pre-game it was a little bit more quiet actually around Wembley than it was for the cup final. I mean, as you would probably expect. But I mean, in the ground, it was quite pumped. It was, it was obviously full. It was packed. And the Arsenal fans gave a good account of themselves. They were, loud the whole time. They were kind of up for it. I think every sort of, challenge, there was a couple of naughty challenges in there as well.
Mostly from Ramirez, I think.
Well, yeah, probably, but it's meant to be a friendly, but it was sometimes anything but. John Terry and Cesc Fabregas got their sort of usual welcome. Obviously, Petr got quite a following from the Arsenal faithful.
One thing I have to ask you, Akhil, actually, how many replica skull caps did you see in the crowd today?
Not many, actually.
Not many suggest there was more than one.
Well, there was more than one.
There was a few, wasn't there?
There was more than one for sure. There was about 4 or 5, I think I saw. But I mean, when sort of half the crowd is singing Czechs Gooner, I think that was probably the highlight of the day. Czechs Gooner sort of thing. It got a bit feisty in the second half, and there was a little bit of I would probably say it was handbags, but it certainly hyped us up in the stands because we were kind of hoping for a little bit more. But yeah, no, it was great. It was great to see Arsene Wenger finally beat Jose Mourinho too.
And I think from all of this, the thing we can take away is that monkey is off our back. And some people will say, well, it's not a Premier League game, but when everyone was quoting that record of how many games Mourinho had over Wenger, that run included a match in the Community Shield. I think it was in 2005. So after we won the FA Cup and they'd won the league, and Mourinho got one over on him then, and everyone has included that. So I think we can say that the curse is broken. So
yeah, I mean,
I have to ask, do you have to do any double takes when you saw Czech standing in the goal, and did you remember which way we were shooting or?
No, I think you know what it's weird, but I mean we've so taken to Petr Cech that it kind of feels normal now. I know we haven't. I mean, obviously we saw him in the Emirates Cup last week, and then that was kind of probably. I mean, for me it was the first time I saw him last Sunday in the Arsenal goal, and that kind of it felt quite normal to be honest. It was. I mean, there was a few attempts where he went for the ball in the box and like he kind of jumped all over the Chelsea players. It was actually great. It was really great to see, and you know, I think Petr Cech's gonna, you know, I think it's a stunning signing. I think it's gonna do wonders for our sort of confidence and for our season as well. And then, by the way, you talk about the Community Shield, but I mean Mourinho's record over Wenger, it also included 2 sort of Carling Cups, which, you know, you can argue aren't sort of the be and end all sort of thing. I know one was a final, but one was also, I think a sort of second or third round or whatever it was. So
A couple of seasons ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. At the Emirates, yeah, exactly. So I think it's, you know, it certainly it looks good. Obviously, you know, 19th of September, I think it is when Arsenal travel to the Bridge. So that's going to be now the next kind of a big day for Arsenal and for Chelsea, and you know, obviously for Petr Cech as well.
No, definitely. I think the thing about Wenger and Mourinho and well, I guess just playing Chelsea in general, I think this will just give us a bit of belief. And you know, a lot of people, you know, spoke about what the Community Shield win over City would do for us last year, and obviously it was a big boost. But you know, we didn't perhaps build on that in the first few months of the season like we would like to. But we did, you know, go and beat City that season and away from home, which and you know, you can say whether or not that was always going to happen, but I think the fact that we did one over in them in the Community Shield was always going to be a more positive thing than a negative one anyway. So moving forward, I guess it's a really positive result. James, let's talk about Cech for a little bit more, I guess. I mean, what did you make of his performance today? And
Fantastic.
I mean, the thing was, I think a lot when you notice about the really top goalkeepers is that they don't always have to make the great saves to really impress you. It's just their general presence and the way they come for balls and really just there's something about Cech. He just kind of emanates this confidence.
He's a winner. The guy is a natural born winner, and he, like Clive has said, other people have said, he made a statement when he signed. He ain't coming here to take a paycheck. He ain't coming here to sit and wait. He's coming here to win things, and he wants to get Arsenal some memories, get them some trophies. And, you know, he's played 3 games and won 3 trophies, you know. Yeah, I mean, like you said, next week, when we play West Ham, if we win, I reckon we probably will. But after 90 minutes, he's going to be like, well, where's the presentation? We're going to have to set something up. He's not used to it. Yeah, he's going to have to get used to not having something presented to him, like, you know. But no, he definitely kept us in it today. I mean, watching it, and that Oscar free kick, that save, I thought to myself, if that's Ospina, he's probably too small to get that. So, you know, and Szczesny, I don't even want to fathom. I'm like, you go to Italy and have a good time, mate, because you were done for me anyway. To be fair, but
well, it's interesting. I mean, the way that what Akhil was saying, you know, it doesn't even feel that weird anymore. Obviously, seeing Cech against Chelsea is. He
loved that as well today. You could see at the end he absolutely loved that. But
yeah, definitely.
You know, talking about Ramirez earlier, can I just quickly go off topic here? Did any of you know what his upbringing was like? Because he's a monster. He's an absolute animal. I don't know what's made him so mean.
I think just knowing that he's not actually...
He's such a nasty player. Like,
well, I think, look, he's a Mourinho team is always going to have a few enforcers in it. And
he's not even an enforcer. I don't even rate him as a player. I'm like, all you're there for is just a kick. I don't know what you add to Chelsea.
That is a quality.
From just kicking people.
When Mourinho is a manager, that is a quality in itself. Yeah. You know, being someone to kick Zola and scrape your leg down the back of his down the back of his Achilles and those kind of things. I mean, you know, he's a decent player, Ramirez, but you know, he's certainly in there to do a job on the opposition players more than I think to create for his own team. But yeah, no, I don't know where he grew up or whatever, but he's certainly not. But
slept outside with the dogs, right?
Quite possibly. I'm not saying he's feral, but you never know. No, I mean, I guess today then we'll it kind of wraps a nice little bow up on our pre-season, and I don't know how much you can take from pre-season, but we've played, was that the fifth game we've played? We've scored 15, conceded one, which was a kind of a Barkley wonder goal. We've won 3 trophies. And whilst no one is going to be saying that, pre-season means anything more than pre-season, it certainly couldn't have gone any better, could it, Rick? Really?
No, it couldn't have gone much better at all. I mean, we signed a fantastic goalkeeper. We've won every competition we've been in. I mean, it's preseason. Let's not get too excited. As I was reminded by the Chelsea fan I sat next to all day, you still got 0 points. So,
we are top of the league, though.
Yeah.
Second Bournemouth.
Alphabetical.
Bournemouth are alphabetically. We start second now. AFC Bournemouth, so they start above us.
I'm writing a complaint into the Premier League.
We had
Alphabetisation.
Yeah. We had three big cheers today. One was the loudest was the goal, obviously. Big cheer when we won at the end of the game, and then we had a third big cheer. And I think you guys know where I'm going. When Wenger snubbed Mr. Mourinho.
Well, this is the funny thing, isn't it? I said something on Twitter earlier, modern football, which is basically Chelsea fans saying, oh, look, Mourinho ignored Wenger, and Arsenal fans saying, no, it's Wenger who ignored him. But, it's all part of the, the pageantry, isn't it? And the media absolutely love this rivalry. And
we need either Hearn, Vince McMahon, Don King, Oscar De La Hoya, whoever can put it on pay-per-view. We need these two in a ring. And we need to watch them go at each other, because even I put it in the WhatsApp. My mum hates football because it's all she's had to deal with for like God knows how many years. And even she was like, like it was a soap, like it's something going on in a soap. She was like, what's happened there? She was like, that's a bit feisty. I was like, Mum, it's going to kick off. It's going to kick off. And then obviously he threw his medal, and he said he was an Arsenal fan, so he could do with a loser medal or something, didn't he? He took a shot at the end, and I was just like, he loves it though, really, Mourinho. He loves all that, but
he lives for it, doesn't he?
Yeah. I thought the audacity of him to even stand there and shake all the players' hands. All right, it's a classy move.
It's all fake. It's all fake.
Yeah,
we all know it's fake.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it's fake.
It's a safe face, isn't it? Really.
It's just, it's like after they lost to Bradford this last season, you went in and shook all their hands, and everyone said, "Oh, what a fantastic gesture that is!" But it just reeked of.
I would have loved Arsene to just get up just before the game ended and walked out. Oh, I had to tell my wife to score or whatever. Do you know?
I think Wenger carries himself with a bit more class than that. And whilst he won't shake his hand, I think. Aside from that, he's not going to try and get involved in too much kind of this drama. But anyway, I guess that added to the occasion, didn't it? And it's always nice when you have that kind of thing and you win. Whereas obviously when you're on the losing end of it, it just becomes a further annoyance. But let's just get back to the actual football kind of things. Akhil, we spoke briefly about the match. And what did you make of it as a whole? I mean, were you pleased with the way we played? Did you think we didn't really give a good account of ourselves going forward, or did you think we played it right with nicking the goal and kind of I guess parking the bus? Mourinho might accuse us of doing, but were you pleased with that approach?
It was slightly different. I mean, Santi Cazorla sort of played from the left-hand side, which was obviously very different to last year, where sort of Aaron Ramsey played wide. So that was the sort of, I think he was trying it out a little bit. Obviously, Alexis Sanchez wasn't there today, so that's someone we can add in. But generally, no, I thought we played well. I thought Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was bright. I thought he really looked a player. And you know what? It's great kind of the competition in places, because Olivier Giroud will want to play when he plays. Theo Walcott would want to play out wide, and that's where Chamberlain's playing at the moment and playing really well. So we looked good. I thought Coquelin again was sort of fantastic in the middle. I thought Laurent Koscielny actually was second half. There was a period just before Giroud came on for about 10 minutes, I think from about 50 minutes to about 60 minutes, where everything was on our side. We were kind of, when I say our side, where the sort of the Arsenal fans were sitting, and the ball just kept coming, and we were all a little bit thinking, geez, 40 minutes to go, we're kind of under the cosh here. Every time we sort of went forward, we kind of couldn't hold it up. But Laurent Koscielny he cleared it, he blocked it, he was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And then obviously Giroud came on, it changed the game a little bit. but I mean, generally we did look good, and the sort of choices we had on the bench as well to bring on. Kieran Gibbs came on. We had so many options, and there was players players sort of there that weren't even sort of on the bench today. So I think squad wise we look good. I think it's slowly getting there. So yeah, no injuries, and we've got a fantastic squad.
Yeah, I mean, I do kind of get a little bit excited every time today when I was watching us and thought we're actually doing pretty well here, and then remembered that Alexis was still to come back because, Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think, was the guy who stepped in for him today and wouldn't have played probably had Alexis been available, but he took his chance with both hands, and I think it's safe to say he'll be starting against West Ham at the weekend.
I mean, you look at that. I mean, Arteta, Gibbs, and Giroud were the three subs.
And Wilshere, of course,
you got Wilshere
out with a minor knock. Yeah.
Well, exactly. You got Wilshere to come back in, Alexis to come back in, Thomas Rosicky, wherever he is, Welbeck to come back in. Debussy obviously can come back in. So there's a lot. Gabriel, obviously. So there's so many choices there, which is obviously fantastic for us. So, bring on the season, I say.
Yeah, no, it certainly feels, there's been a funny kind of, the feeling around the fans seems to be kind of split this summer because whilst we do have a fantastic squad, we haven't made those other signings, aside from Czech, which we can all agree was an absolutely brilliant move. But there is a clamour from some fans to improve. There's some fans who think we cannot win the league with the squad as we have it. But, I do think that the squad we have now is pretty bloody good. I really think this is probably in terms of depth and being strong in all over the pitch, I really don't think we've had a team this good since the Invincibles. Am I getting carried away, Rick, or would you kind of go along with that? Or am I doing a disservice to some of the teams you've had in the last few years?
I don't think you're doing a disservice at all. I think we got a fantastic squad. We are, a little thin in a few areas. I think everybody knows that, we don't want, Rob Coughlin up in cotton wool when he's not playing, right? We don't want an injury to come to him. And some people want that big striker. I don't know really who they want because I think we got a couple of really good ones already. But even Wenger has said this is one of the most talented squads he's ever had. Of course, Wenger has a propensity to do that every 3 years, but I actually think he means it this time. I mean, we already talked about all the people that when Sanchez comes back will be sitting on the bench, and that's Chamberlain, Wilshere, maybe Walcott's on the bench, maybe Ramsey's on the bench. I mean, that's a lot of tough choices he has to make. That's a lot of quality on the bench, and I think that speaks to volumes as to the type of squad we have and the kind of run we can make this season.
I'd say, Callum, depth-wise, on par with the Invincibles, probably, I'll go with you. Quality-wise, nowhere near. Nowhere near quality-wise as good as the Invincibles was.
Before I say, I'd like to make a point out that I'm not saying we're close to the Invincibles or anything like that. But I am saying that given the kind of 9 years we didn't win a trophy and we were selling our best players every summer, the squad certainly looks the best it's been since then. Since your
what I will go with is as a team of as a team that actually all get along. It doesn't seem there's all right. There's obvious cliques with the Spanish talking players and French talking players, yada yada yada. But as a whole unit and as a whole, when we win, they all get together and everything. I think that's one of the best. The days of Gallas and Adebayor and Toure or whatever having their little clique that didn't speak to this lot and everything else. I think all that bad blood and all that negativity's all gone, and these lot all really like each other, all really get along with each other. And
it's an underrated thing but it's very underrated that because people always say, oh, it's just, this is just talk of people who are trying to distract, ignoring the fact that we need new players. But, whenever teams win the league, it's because they've got a squad that get along and that they know each other really well. And they've kind of, often when teams win the league, it's because they've been together for a few years. You look at the Chelsea team that won it last year. Obviously Costa and Fabregas came in and added that extra bit of quality they needed. But a lot of that squad had been there for a good few years and had kind of learnt to play together. And adopted a certain
Well,
style.
it's like in interviews, the best way to describe it for me was, Giroud, they asked him was he upset that he didn't start in the FA Cup final. He said no, because the manager explained to me why he's gone for Walcott. Other clubs, you get players like, yeah, I am pissed off he started in front of me, actually, because, I think they all accept, they all understand everybody's strengths, everybody's weaknesses, and they understand the way we want to go about things. And that's really good, because a lot of times you get people that are like, I'm being paid all this money and I don't want to sit on the bench, which we might get every now and then. Rosicki's expressed that he doesn't really see himself playing many games, but he'd like to play more than what he is. And we don't really have that. I mean, you don't get players like Solskjaer and Hernandez that don't mind sitting on the bench these days. You get a lot of people that want to play every game, which I don't mind, but we've got quite a lot there that understand it. Do you know what I mean? They understand that, okay, maybe I won't be playing this week, but next week, you never know. Like, that team that played today is more than capable, but when Sanchez and that come back, they're going to understand that you might have to take a back seat, and we might play Giroud next time against Chelsea instead of Walker up front. But everybody understands their role and just gets on with it, which is fantastic.
It certainly seems the case that you've got a lot of the players who, for example, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain will look at his position in the squad and say, I might not be a guaranteed starter every week, but the reason that is because I've got Alexis Sanchez in front of me, and I am going to win trophies at Arsenal. I am going to play pretty well. I am young. I am going to get chances. And I think, that's what's really good is that Wenger, players know that if you're young enough, it doesn't matter how young you are. If you're good enough, you're going to get games. You look at Bellerin, what he did last season. No one was talking about him being a regular starter last summer, and an opportunity was given to him and he took it, and he is still our first choice right back. And I think there's guys like Chambers and Gabriel who perhaps aren't going to be starters this season, but know that guys like Mertesacker and Koscielny are much older than them, and there will be chances afforded to them, and if they do take them, then they could potentially move them out the side. So I do think there's whilst you have guys like Rosicki and Podolski last season was complaining quite often about his lack of playing time, you don't feel like there's any rifts in the squad. There's no troublemaking. Ramsey has often spoken about wanting to play in the middle rather than on the right, but he recognises that he's a team player and that this isn't forever. It's just they need him to do this role for a while, and they all seem to buy into it, which I think is really important. And I think as well, the squad is really versatile. There's players, as we said, Cazorla was on the left for a bit today and Ramsey was in the middle, where, of course, last season it was Cazorla central and Ramsey on the side. And we've got a midfield that's really fluid, and guys like Walcott who play through the middle today can play on the right, can play on the left. There's a lot of players in this team that can operate in different positions, which can only be a good thing. Mentioning Walcott there, there was a lot of talk before the game, really. I think we could probably pick the 10 players that were going to start, but the Walcott or Giroud up front was probably the one we weren't quite sure about. Akhil, so what did you make of Walcott? Did you think he played well today, or do you think he was disappointing?
I wouldn't say disappointing. I think it was probably one of slightly more quiet. He did run the channels at all in the first half. It was sort of, I think playing against Chelsea is quite tough. I think, John Terry, Gary Cahill kind of pushed a little bit back, to sort of defending at someone like Theo Walcott. You're always going to push back. So I think it was tough for him today. I thought he did okay. Probably not one of his best ever games. But the great thing is you've got sort of Giroud, you've got Walcott, you've got two really different options. You haven't got two of the same. It's good to have the option, and he kind of. I think he'll improve in games like this. I think he'll get smarter. But generally, I'm very happy with Walcott. I'm glad he's staying. I think he's going to be. I would challenge him to get sort of 20, 25 goals this season. So I think he's a tremendous player. It didn't go his way today, perhaps, but sure will do in the future.
If we are going to persist with him as a striker, and I think we probably will, with the new contract and the lack of another striker brought in, I think Wenger very much is putting a lot of faith in Walcott in that position. He is going to need some time, I guess, to find little nuances with that role and how we play and what the striker for Arsenal is expected to do in this system. That these kind of things will take a bit of time to bed in for him to become more natural at these things. But with that pace and that finishing ability, I think there's always going to be a chance for him to score. And I said today during the game, whilst he was kind of quiet for quite a lot of it, there's always going to be, it only takes one mistake from the defender to let him get in behind, and that could be the goal for us. So, what did you think, Rick? Both today and kind of long term, do you think Walcott did well today, and do you think he is going to be a player we can rely on regularly as a striker for us?
I think he did okay today. I don't think anybody really stood out, but he was active. I've always been a Walcott fan. I think he can play up front. Obviously, you don't want him there week in, week out, but he can certainly play up front, and he's really scares the crap out of defenses. That's his biggest asset, is without even the ball at his feet, he will make defenses adjust. They will have to account for him. And those are things that maybe they don't have to do with Giroud or somebody else. So I'm a big fan of putting him up there. And matter of fact, one of our Twitter questions was on this subject. So let me go ahead and ask that right now. At Sessions Jack asked, when it comes to Walcott, is a central striker role for Walcott difficult against the bigger teams who offer less space in behind? So let's go with James or Akhil here.
James?
Well, for me personally, I think we didn't really exploit it that much today when Walcott was on. I thought when Giroud did come on, that's when the chances for Gibbs and Cazorla come about. I think we should have tried to exploit it a bit more. I said it last week that for me, Cahill and Terry, although they are on par the best partnership in the Prem, possibly one of the best in Europe, they're slow. Ivanovic is very slow. I think we should, a bit more legs today and trying to thread the ball in a bit better. I'm not saying Ozil had a bad game by any means, but I thought he could have maybe orchestrated a bit more for Walcott. And
you have to remember though, with like Terry, he's probably the best defender in the league. We'd probably all agree with that, especially last season. But what makes him so good is that his partnership with Cahill, especially, he isn't exploited by pace. They play in a way that means they're so well organised with the back four as a whole, with the goalkeeper, Courtois is so quick off his line that, he's probably the best defence in the league and one of the best in Europe. So, and this is Walcott playing a relatively new role. I think this is a tough. I understand what you're saying completely. I think, it would have been, we always wanted, whenever Walcott's playing as the lone striker, you want to get balls through to him because he isn't going to play with his back to goal. You want him playing on the shoulder of the last man, but
exactly.
The Chelsea defence is the most.
I was very impressed with that header today, by the way, from the.
Just that he won a header, I was impressed.
Yeah, no, I thought, I was like, we're going to try and whip this in. Who've we got to really whip it into apart from Mertesacker? And then up gets Theo Walcott. I was like, oh wow. I was like, okay, but.
Well, I think the thing with the heading, I grew up, my dad's, James, my dad's a big Celtic fan, and I watched Henrik Larsson as a kid. And Henrik Larsson was a player who, I don't think was even 6 foot. He wasn't tall at all, but he was a beast in the air. He scored 2 goals in the UEFA Cup final in 2003 with his head. And, not being a big guy isn't an excuse to win headers. Obviously Giroud's always going to do well because of his height and physicality. But if you're intelligent enough and you're good technically enough with headers and are able to direct them in the right, there's no excuse why Theo shouldn't be getting at least a couple of headers this season, if the opportunity arises. So I guess there was definitely a good thing to see him at least getting in the right position and getting that flick on, even if it was a relatively easy catch, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. But no, I don't know what Akhil thinks. If Akhil wants to jump in on Theo a bit more.
No, I've pretty much said my bit. I think he sort of nailed on the head last year actually after the cup final when he was asked about his position, and he actually said that he wants to play kind of up front, but at the same time he's not suited there for every game. He doesn't want to play there every game. Sometimes he might be better wide. So I think it's very much depending on the opposition. And obviously with Danny Welbeck hopefully coming back soon, there's options there. And I don't think that. I think especially with Arsene Wenger loves players in that offensive third who can play sort of all over the place. So, he talks about sort of Walcott, Sanchez, Chamberlain who can play sort of left, right, central. Obviously Giroud might be a little bit different, but even Wilshere, he's talked about playing wide. Santi Cazorla obviously can play sort of wide and centrally. So I think the great thing is with Arsenal is people can play all over the place. I don't think there's a set sort of position for him. But I think in certain games he will do well up front.
Do you think if he stays fit, he would get 25 to 30 goals a season?
Yes.
Yes, see, I do as well, but a lot of people don't think so. I think he's got the potential to do it. I look at it and I think, out of all the players we have, I think the 25 to 30 season goal men that we've got now, I would say possibly Sanchez and possibly Walcott would be the only two that could do it.
I think that comes down to how much he plays, though. I mean, realistically, Giroud will start a lot of games this season. Walcott will be on the right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if Walcott hits form and he plays some through the middle, some on the right, he could hit 20 goals, definitely in all competitions anyway.
Yeah.
But what he needs to do is, I think with regards to the question, and the question was talking kind of specifically about Walcott in the big games. I think what we've seen with Giroud is that it's taken him some time to get to the level where he can make an impact in the big games. And we saw last year, got the goal versus City in the Community Shield, got the goal at the Etihad. He scored that screamer against United at home. You know, he's getting better at scoring in these big games. And Walcott will find it tough, I think, when he comes up against your John Terry's and your Gary Cahills, because they will know how to. They will. You know, John Terry's played every kind of striker. You know, there's nothing that can surprise him now. And Walcott isn't at the level yet in that position where he can really trouble, I think, the very best defences. But against the good defences, or the ones that aren't quite as at that top level, you know, there will be mistakes in games, and his pace means that he will be able to exploit that a lot. So I think actually moving forward, obviously you never know how the season's going to play out, which players it form, but I think the general blueprint for how I would approach these games is that Giroud is a really good option in these big matches, because he will not allow himself to be bullied by these well-drilled, tough defences. You know, he will always be a presence. And I think when you noticed when he came on was that as soon as he was on the pitch, we suddenly had that focal point that we perhaps lacked with Walcott. You know, he was willing to get the ball. He was willing to, you know, hold players off, win the ball, lay it on, keep the moves going. Whereas with Walcott, you know, we feel like he's always looking to kind of get in behind, and as a result of that, he won't always be as available to receive possession. So my blueprint would be to generally go towards Giroud in the big games, and then you've always got the option of Walcott with 30 minutes to go, because that pace, I don't care how good you are, if you're a tired defender, you ain't going to want to see Walcott coming on. Whereas if he's kind of started from the beginning, he ain't going to be as quick as he in the 60th minute as he would be in the first minute, because he'll have been tired as well. But against the lesser teams, I think Walcott will always find chances because of his pace and because of the players he has behind him. So I think it's exciting.
I wonder though if maybe we got that a little flipped. I think Walcott might be a little bit better when teams are having a go at us and there is space to get in behind. And a lot of times that is the bigger teams that are doing that. You know, you might run up against somebody where, you know, Stoke, where you're playing in their half the entire time, feels not going to be nearly as effective.
How many teams nowadays do we come up against who really attack us? Because it seems to me that whenever we play anyone, even if we play the best teams, you know, Chelsea are
boring Chelsea.
I mean, exactly.
They don't have.
I mean, in all seriousness, it's worked for them for years. They know that we're going to come out and play. So they, even though you could definitely, they're the champions, they're the better team than us. But there's no obligation on them to come and attack us. They go, well, Arsenal always attack, we always defend with relative ease, and we always nick a goal and we win. We're beginning to change that because we're beginning to be more pragmatic in our approach. But I think realistically, we just don't get teams that come out and attack us like that. I just don't think it happens. You know, if we get drawn with Barcelona in the Champions League, by all means play Walcott, because he's always going to be a threat. But I think, you know, I can't think of really any other team in the Premier League, at least, who will come out and really go for us to the point where Walcott could be devastating on the break. He will get goals on the counter, but yeah.
I think it also depends on the centre-backs, you know. If you kind of look at today and you think, well, do you fancy Walcott against sort of Cahill and Terry? But at the same time, in a big game against maybe Liverpool, maybe even Man United, you would think, you know what, he could probably get at them a little bit, run at them. So it depends on the opposition in terms of their actual specific personnel as well. I think it's very much case by case. But as I said before, it's great to have the option as well, you know. It's great to have those two options. So, you know, perhaps one day we might even see Giroud and Walcott play together. I don't know.
Well, we did see Giroud play with the mighty Sonogo in the FA Cup final, but since then we've not really seen much of the 4-4-2, have we? So I guess what we really want would be a player who can kind of do what Giroud can do and also what Walcott can do, but unfortunately those players tend to cost £50 million nowadays. So
yeah, I mean, give me a Sergio Aguero or Luis Suarez, I won't say no, but there aren't many of them. So I think we stick to who we have. at the moment anyway.
Anyway, we won't get dragged into transfers. James, there was another Twitter question, I believe. Do you have one there?
Yeah, we got a couple here. We got one from @Ords1st, and he said, "Do you agree with the way we play today? Is the way that we should play against the big teams? I think we should. Do you?" So I don't know who wants to take that first.
Well, it seems like we've kind of touched on this a lot. I think the general consensus is you want to win games, and I think we're never going to become this boring defensive-minded team. Wenger will always look to attack, but he has shown last season and again today that in the big games against the best teams, we will adopt our approach. So I'm extremely content with how we are approaching games nowadays. We are playing good football, some stunning football at times, all the time. We've got a lot of great attacking players who are now really familiar with each other and are, creating some lovely passages of play. But we also feel with Cech in goal now and Koscielny playing brilliantly and Coquelin in the midfield, we suddenly feel a lot more solid. So I think we've got this really nice balance that I think if we do end up winning the league this season or mounting a serious challenge, it will be because we aren't just a one-trick pony anymore. So I'm all for it. Akhil, Rick, do you want to come in on this? Or
I just want to remind everybody that Arsene Wenger has never changed. I don't think he ever will. So I don't expect to consistently see us sitting back at all.
He's adapted, though. He's adapted.
I don't know that he's adapted.
Somewhat.
Or maybe the players have. So maybe they're taking it upon themselves to maybe drop a little deeper. But I don't expect a lot of change. I don't know. There's going to be a game this season. We're going to throw people forward. We're going to get caught on the counter, and we're all going to scream and yell about when will Wenger ever learn? And he's not going to. He's the romantic. He wants to play this way, and that's the way he wants to do it.
See, I totally disagree with that. I saw a massive change last year. I saw a change when we went to Man City. I saw a change when we went to Old Trafford. And sadly, I saw a change when we went to Tottenham, which perhaps didn't quite work out for us.
We showed them too much respect, I think.
Well, exactly. But I think, the City game going to Old Trafford, I think he did adapt. He realised there that actually it's not all about keeping the ball, keeping possession and getting ultimately countered, like we have done so many times. I think he kind of realised that actually, if the opposition have the ball in their own half, I mean, against Man City, normally we used to press the centre-backs hard. Man City away, we just left them to it because we realised they can't hurt us. And even their defensive midfielders, Fernandinho and Fernando, they can't hurt us. Get it into Silva, we were all over him. And again at Old Trafford as well. So I think Arsene Wenger has changed. We've seen it over sort of his transfer policy. I mean, I know he's come out recently and kind of said, we sort of didn't have the money to spend, but he's obviously spent a bit of money. I think he's kind of gone for the more experienced players. The over 30s rule has changed, so I think he has adapted. Some would argue maybe it's a little bit later than they wanted, but I certainly last year saw a massive change, and I'm hoping this year as well it's going to be a little bit more the same. And I'm really confident going into this year. I think we'll see a different Arsenal in some games, certainly home games against the so-called lesser teams. I think we'll see slightly different Arsenal against the big teams at home, and I think we'll see a different Arsenal again away from home against the big teams, and hopefully in Europe as well.
Yeah, I think we all hope that. And I think I agree with you, Akhil, that there's been a lot of change. I mean, obviously, we're not going to turn into, a Sam Allardyce team overnight or a Mourinho team, but we have, the City and the United results on the road last season were really significant. And again today, and that was definitely achieved from a more pragmatic approach, shall we say, from Wenger. So, look, this is the Community Shield, which means that the Premier League's a week away. We are home to West Ham, who, have already started their season a few weeks ago. They've been playing in the early rounds in the Europa League. So
it feels like they started last year. I think last season.
Yeah, I think it was like the very beginning. They've been playing for a month. I think the very beginning of July. So it's an odd one. But Akhil, what changes would you be looking at? I mean, going into this game, or are you quite happy to stick with the same 11?
I mean, Giroud, I suppose, could come back in. Jack Wilshere will probably want to come back in. I think the greatest thing is sort of right back, left back. You can kind of rotate without really feeling it. I think if Debussy comes back in, you wouldn't feel that we're weakened. If Kieran Gibbs comes back in, you wouldn't feel that we're weakened. So I think we look good. I think Sanchez really wants to play as well. Everything I've heard is that he's been really training hard for the last week. He's not with Arsenal, by the way. He's coming back tomorrow, but he's sort of been really doing some hard work kind of in his own time. So he really wants to play. Whether the club will let him, I don't know. But I think, there's a few subtle changes there. But generally, if you change a few players, it's still a very strong team. So I expect, we have to start well. That's Arsene Wenger yesterday was talking actually, and he talked about that and said there's no excuses this year. Last year we had the World Cup. We had players coming back late. We started, I know we sort of beat Palace on the first day, but then we kind of went to Everton and drew, and, we started badly. But I think this year the club know there's no excuse, and the players know that as well. So I think they'll want to start well. So it's looking good. Let's just get the 3 points.
Yeah, good stuff. It'd be interesting to see if we see Alexis. I think at most you'd probably see him on the bench, but I think Wenger will be very keen to not rush him back. But I guess we'll see.
They'll have to handcuff him to the bench, I think.
Yeah, I'd rather him take an extra week in training because
with Oxlade-Chamberlain playing this well.
Yeah, exactly. Walcott
we're not exactly short of cover, are we? So,
exactly, yeah.
James, what changes would you be looking to make, if any?
I'd stick to what it was. Really, I thought it was okay today. I think that's more than capable of beating West Ham. They've got that Europa League game, I believe, Thursday. And they've conceded 2 away goals against a team that finished second in Romania. And from what I understand, I think Bilic is going to take the kids out there. As he says, the league really is the priority. So I think they'll have their full strength side. And obviously they've got some additions in Payet and Ogbonna and Obiang and some others. But I think we're strong enough to beat West Ham, and that will hopefully kick-start the season, and we'll go on to Palace the week after and hopefully kick on some more.
Yeah, good stuff. And, it's interesting, isn't it, to be playing West Ham where they might have the European hangover and not us.
Yeah.
So, but I guess, as you say, they might not even take the key guys out there with them. But Rick, were you thinking the same, or are you thinking of changing it up? And in particular, Giroud in for Walcott maybe, or would you stick with Theo?
I would stick with Theo against West Ham. I'd stick with him, see what he can do. It's time for him to prove himself. He just signed a new contract. We're going to play both of them. Giroud and Walcott are both going to get games, but how many do they get? I think it's going to be, determined by how they're training, how they're performing in games. But I don't see any reason to change anybody in that lineup. I was a big Debuchy fan when we got him. He just looked very, very classy, and I still think he can get some starts ahead of Bellerin. But really, who would complain about starting either one of them at this point?
Well, yeah, it's a fantastic issue to have, especially given the time of when we were playing Johan Jesus at right back. It doesn't seem that long ago, and the fact we've got Debuchy, Bellerin, and Jenkinson's out on loan. Chippers, perhaps isn't the best right back, but would still be pretty solid. He's not even getting a look in. So it's become arguably our strongest position. You could even say. I agree. Debuchy's a really good option, I wouldn't be upset at all if he started. Although I would guess that Bellerin will keep his place. Sorry, if you wanted to come in next.
No, if you look at the team, I think at the moment, apart from Francis Coquelin, you would probably think every other position, if there wasn't, maybe Koscielny as well, and maybe Petr Cech as well. Sorry, I know I've kind of changed it from 1 to 3, but okay, Petr Cech starts, but if Debuchy or Bellerin plays, you wouldn't be too disappointed. Gibbs, Monreal again. I think Koscielny starts, but if Gabriel came in for Mertesacker, you would think actually it's not bad. Coquelin plays, and in the middle, anyone out of sort of Cazorla, Ramsey, Wilshere, Ozil, Rosicky, there's a lot of them. Chamberlain, Walcott out wide. Sanchez obviously might not be fit yet. Welbeck can play out there, and then up front Giroud or Walcott will play. There's so many options. There's only literally maybe 2 or 3 positions where you think, they'll definitely start, but then what else will we do? So it's great actually. The squad looks really, really good on paper.
Very exciting, yeah.
And I think the thing with people need to realise this summer is that whilst I would definitely love Karim Benzema or Robert Lewandowski, and I would also probably like someone to cover Coquelin who's a bit better than Arteta and Flamini. We're no longer in a position where we're just desperately fighting fires and plugging holes in the squad. Before we were signing Santos and Park Ju-young.
It's a different market.
We lost players every summer, so we were having to sell. But now you look at I look at what Walcott and Giroud as our top two players up front. I think these are two very good players. Welbeck as well, I still have a lot of faith in. And I think, well, who would be a clear improvement over them? And beforehand, I think when we had RVP, for example, and looked who was behind him, he had Shamak, and that was it. And you think, bloody hell, just anyone would be a better backup than what we've got. And a lot of other positions, you would just think, well, anyone would be better than what we've got here. But now you look at the striker position and you think, well, who would be a clear upgrade on what we've got? And when you think about that, you are beginning to look at guys like Benzema and Lewandowski as the next level up. But
yeah, and the problem is they're playing for teams that don't have to sell. I mean, how do you get those players to move?
Exactly. And strikers are few and far between nowadays. Sorry, what were you saying, Akhil?
No, there was just what you're talking about the market. I think Rafa Honigstein came to an Arsenal Supporters Trust event about maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and he was talking about the German market. He was talking about Lucas Podolski actually in sort of general, and he was talking about how Arsenal were just buying in a totally different market 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe Santi Cazorla was a great signing, but the Podolski and the Santos and the players like that it was a totally different market. Right now, Arsenal are looking at that world bracket, the Ozil, the Sanchez, the Czech. That's the market they're looking at. Welbeck was perhaps a bit of an opportunity. But it's a totally different market now, and I think Arsene Wenger certainly thinks, if I can't get that sort of world, I think obviously we all know he wanted Suarez 2 years ago. But I think he's thinking if he can't get a Benzema or a Lewandowski, then he doesn't want a Benteke. He's rather go with Walcott, and at the same time, I think holding midfield, he thinks sliding in. He thinks Coquelin's maybe equal or better, so he doesn't want to sign in. So I think it's Arsenal are totally in a different market now, which kind of, it's good that they're going for it a little bit more.
Well, it's interesting, I think, because you look at, Benteke, he's just gone to Liverpool for 32.5 million. And,
it's not worth it.
Well, look, some people, I think I completely understand why people might think he's better than Giroud. I personally think that the difference between them is pretty negligible, but £32 million for a player that isn't going to be an upgrade. And, Aubameyang was another player we were linked to. I think is a very good player, but, £30 million again on him. Would he score more than Walcott? No guarantee. I think buying a player like Aubameyang is just as risky as going for Walcott as our main striker for the season. I don't see Aubameyang as being a safer bet, and these are the kind of players that we were linked with. And we're going to be paying huge amounts of money for, and I don't really think they're much better than what we've got. And I think that's what Wenger's line of thinking is, and I think that's why we're going to go Benzema or bust. I think that's probably what's going to happen, and I think it'll probably end up with us not getting anyone, unfortunately. But I can understand the logic there, because I don't think there's really any players out there. I mean, I would argue perhaps Lacazette would be worth taking a punt on, but again, there's risks associated with that. So. Yeah, no, you're right. We are shopping in a completely different market, and it's good though, because we are now in a position where even if we don't sign another player, the squad is still stellar. It's still very good, and I feel like on our day we can match anyone, in the league, and today was another example of that. So yeah, fantastic. James, I believe you have one more question before we leave.
Yeah, it's sort of related to what we were talking about here. Evil Genius 001, he goes, if Wenger settles for Theo, Welbeck and Giroud as our strike force, should we consider buying a winger like Draxler or Runs? I think he believes Royce, unless there's a player out there called Runs who I haven't heard of, that is obviously class as...
I would assume.
I don't know who Runs is. I reckon it's Royce. I reckon it's a spelling mistake. I think it's a typo. But...
Well, I think with Royce, if he became available, I'd rather go for Royce than Benteke or anyone like that, who is a natural striker. I think, Royce could play as a striker, maybe he couldn't, but he's so good you'd take him, wouldn't you? But
I see that Juventus were after Draxler.
I think he will go to Juventus, Draxler.
Well, the interest has stopped now. That's what I read. Apparently Juventus are looking at elsewhere. So that's something. I know Wenger's a massive fan of him. I know Wenger's a humongous fan of Royce. As that's been quoted quite a few times. And Royce's hero was Thomas Rosicky. So if we can sort of butter him that way, then try it. But for me, if we're looking at strikers and we're going to buy one, people go Benzema or bust. People know my opinion on Benzema. I'm not going to carry on about it. I get pelted left, right, and centre. I'm not a Benzema fan, so whatever.
Fair enough. But
Lewandowski is not happy at Bayern Munich. 40
isn't he though?
Quid,
is he?
Chuck it down. Bring him in. That man's world class. He'll do it.
Well, with regards to the question, personally, I have no real desire for a winger because we have Alexis, we have Oxlade-Chamberlain,
the left foot.
We have Walcott. That's left foot.
I'd like a naturally left-footed one.
We've got Wilshere. We've got Cazorla. I don't think we need one. But look, if Wenger goes and puts 50 million down for Royce and we get him, I'm not going to be whinging. I'll be quite happy. But guys, Akhil, quickly, would you be happy with the winger?
Well, I'm never going to say no to a new player, but generally I'm quite happy with the squad. If there was that world class striker available, get him in. But winger wise, I think if you get a winger in, and if Sanchez is going to play left, then you're suddenly restricting Chamberlain's time. And it's that sort of we laugh about that killing Danielson. But it's kind of, you could kill Chamberlain. So I think it's no. I'm happy with it as it is.
Yeah, Rick.
I'm happy as well. I don't know that they're a huge upgrade. And if you do it, what do you do with Chamberlain, right?
Mm-hmm. And Wenger doesn't always. He likes to play normally one winger, one creative midfielder on the wing, doesn't he? So you've got Alexis, and then one of Oxlade-Chamberlain, Wilshere, Ramsey, Cazorla. We're pretty good in that position. I think.
And now we got
Serge Gnabry, I really rate as well.
Yeah.
He about a year and a half ago, he was in our first team.
We got Iwobi and Jeff as well.
Swansea away. Yeah, exactly. So I think we're good. I think let's stick with what we've got out wide. So
do you not think though, guys, that with all the outgoing striker-wise, okay, some of them are loans, and there's talk about Akpom possibly going to Hull or West Brom as well, I believe, was the other club, as they're probably looking at getting rid of Berahino to Spurs or to who else. I certainly think he must be looking at a striker, because to go in with just Walcott and Giroud and then possibly... Well, yeah, but we don't know how long Welbeck's out for, do we? I know Welbeck won't be ready for West Ham. So
we play with one striker. We've got Giroud, Walcott and Welbeck, and in emergency situations we could put Alexis up there for the odd game. So I think we're in terms of numbers, there's no issue there. It's just quality. I think we could do with that a little bit extra, but the quality we're looking for is Benzema or Lewandowski, someone of that ilk. Otherwise, we won't go to the market.
I would rather sacrifice not having the striker to get the player to cover for Coquelin. I think going into next season with Arteta and Flamini being the options, I
think it's definitely more imperative we get that player. Yeah, but
DM's a lot more.
Then again, would you rather have a £5 million backup defensive midfielder or Robert Lewandowski? It becomes you probably need that defensive midfielder a little bit more, but get that striker and oh god. Anyway. This has been done to death all summer. I think it's probably best that we wait until the beginning of September to really go over this and see where we're at. But before we go, guys, let's have a quick prediction for West Ham next weekend. Score and first goal scorer, Rick.
Oh, it's going to be 3-0. First scorer, let's just go with Walcott.
James?
3-0, Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Akhil?
4-0, Mesut Ozil.
And Callum?
I would 3-0 Giroud. I think Giroud has a very good record against West Ham, and I think that might mean he might start. So, anyway, we're all very confident, and let's hope that we don't have a opening day like we had a couple of seasons ago when we start strongly. It's been a pleasure chatting to you guys tonight after a season back underway. No more waiting around for the football to begin. So, thanks, guys. I think Akhil might have just gone quiet. Yeah, I think Akhil's left, but he's done it in good timing. So he's popped in late and he's left just a little bit early. But so thanks to Akhil for coming on. Thanks to you, Rick, as well.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And thanks, James, as well.
No worries. Thank you, guys.
And so you can follow us on Twitter if you don't already at Gooner Ramble Pod, and on there you can see all our individual Twitter names and stuff if you need it. This episode will be on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on iTunes. We will be podding throughout the season. We'll be doing weekly podcasts, as well as a few special ones throughout the season. We had Jeremy Wilson from The Telegraph on briefly over the summer, and we'll be hoping to do more and more of that as the season goes on. So do follow us on Twitter and follow us on all the social media platforms. We're on all of them, I think.
Some Periscopes as well. Look out for some Periscopes.
And Periscopes, So James is doing a lot of Periscopes for us. We also have SEMA, and I believe Judd's done it as well. So we do Periscope as well. So keep an eye on that. And it's great to be back. Great to have a new season, and let's hope that this is we'll spend a lot of these podcasts in a good mood because we've won again. So great to be back, and thanks everyone who's listened. And do check in throughout the season. And up the Arsenal. Good night.
Up the Arsenal.
Oh, he's back. Yes. All right, goodbye.
Akhil came back just to say that, I think.
He did.
I knew it was coming.
Gotta get it in.
Up the Arsenal.